Doctor Who. Let's talk about it. The episode starts with the Doctor and gang getting blown up by a mine. They wake up in a hospital ship just before a mysterious alien starts slowly tearing the ship apart. Sounds fun. It's not. It's boring. To give the episode credit, it is competent. It's not like the previous episode where it couldn't even get basic storytelling right. If you're able to keep up with the episode, everything makes sense and all the characters behave appropriately enough to what's going on. My major gripe with the episode is that it is just so dull. There's still some positives though, so I'll talk about them first. Like I said, all the characters were basically fine. There wasn't anything questionable like there have been before in the way they've behaved. Except for the Doctor, though not to the degree I've questioned her character in the previous episodes. I'll explain why later. Overall, she was fine. Nothing outstanding, but it's alright. All of the Doctor's companions, while weren't bad in this episode, offered next to nothing from being here, so I won't bother talking about them much. You've heard it all before by now, so I'll just move on to the other characters. We have a collection of new characters. We have Astos, the head of the hospital ship, a competent person who was able to calm the Doctor before causing a lot of damage and someone who didn't last long. It's rare that we get to see a character who is as level-headed as the Doctor, so when one like Astos comes along and is able to get the Doctor, of all people, to reconsider what she's doing, it's impressive. It's the first time we get to see some of this Doctor's vulnerability, something that I have been craving for this season. This scene does a very good job of establishing Astos, but as for the Doctor, I think they were trying to show how bombastic she is, jumping into things without first thinking it through, which would be a good trait for Jodie's Doctor to have, but because the Doctor's character hasn't been properly established yet, I have no idea if this was intentional. The Doctor was, after all, injured when she made all these poor decisions, so it could have been a consequence of that, instead of it being something her character would do. There's nothing in the previous episodes that show off this new kind of behaviour either, so if we see more of this in the future, great. If it's a one-off thing, then I guess we're still stuck with an unestablished main character then. I know I'm complaining about this Doctor a lot. If you've been keeping up with my reviews, you might be getting sick of it by this point. But scenes like this are precisely why I'm bringing this up. Because this Doctor hasn't been properly established, a scene as fine as this one is hurt because of it. Finally, something the Doctor does which shows a little bit of character might only be because she's in pain, not because her character would do this, not because Jodie is bringing her own to the Doctor, but because the Doctor is in pain and panicking. That's what I assume, anyway, based on the fact that we haven't seen this kind of behaviour before. Astos also dies very quickly after being established, which is a shame. He's intelligent, patient, caring for others, and incredibly helpful. He's everything a Doctor should be. I think it would have been more interesting to watch him interact with everyone else. It might have been like watching two Doctors at once. They could have also easily had Astro and the Doctor have conflicting points of views, both eagerly wanting to do the right thing but wanting to go about it in completely different ways. We get a little bit of that during the time Astos was still alive. I mean, hey, these are things I'm coming up from the top of my head. But we can't have any of that because we need to kill a character off. There's too many. Kill the one that has the most potential, why don't we? For the other characters, we have Madley, who was the assistant nurse before Astrom dies. Now she's pretty much the only real medical person in the ship now. There's E. Cicero, a veteran pilot with a heart condition she keeps secret from everyone. Her brother, Durka Cicero, who is concerned about her. And then there's Ronan, E's assistant droid. There is one more character, but I refuse to talk about him because he is utterly inconsequential. This pregnant alien man serves absolutely no purpose but to cause artificial tension and let the BBC tick off another one of these boxes of priorities, whatever the heck that may be. Ronan doesn't fare much better. He's exactly what he was said he was. An assistant droid. Nothing more, nothing less. They might as well have got a real robot to play the part. Madley does a little more and has more motivation after Astos dies. Main problem is that she spends so much time with the pregnant dude. Every moment spent with the pregnant guy is just wasted time if you ask me. We know he's gonna be fine. They're not gonna kill a kid. Just throw out the character altogether and we won't have to worry about it. It would also give Madley, Ryan and Graham time to do something actually useful during all this. Ian and Durkis are the only two characters that have an actual impact on the plot. Durkis makes up a... what do you call it again? A primitive bilating bypass combining pulse and neuro... it doesn't matter. Basically a thing to strap yourself onto to control a ship symbiotically. That's about the extent these characters have to the story, really. The monster of the episode was built up a lot at the start. It's the thing that was responsible for killing Astos and tearing the ship apart. It's a big deal, basically. The first episode of the series has taught me that even if the characters aren't too great, as long as there's a threatening villain to pursue and defeat, it can make for an alright time. Right after Astos is killed, they finally find the monster responsible. Are we really going with this? That's the lamest thing I've ever seen. All the creativity in the world, and this is the thing you come up with? It looks like Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
It's incredibly dangerous. It jettisoned the life pods. And it killed Astos.
If only we had a gun to deal with this pest then.
Item 7 Alpha Cubed. Pating.
Pating?
Pating. Threat level, Chalice.
Is that bad?
Few facts of
Worst one. One up from Beetroot.
the species, if it is a species, birth or creation. Many studies having failed due to the fatally violent nature of the Pating. No Pating has ever been kept in captivity due to their ability to eat through any material that would incarcerate them. While strictly non-carnivorous, they devour all non-organic material. And while they may be momentarily stunned, are impossible to wound or kill. Pating's skin is understood to be toxic to most life forms. Never touch a Pating directly. Pating should never be restricted to a confined space. Condensed advice, never engage with Pating. Risk to life, ultimate.
Jeez, these things are worse than Daleks. Why on earth are you playing up something as lame as this to be a worse threat than a blimmin' Dalek? Is this episode really overcompensating itself with this? Do they lack this much confidence on how this monster looks that they have to tell the audience why they have to be afraid of it? We barely even see the Pating as well. I'd say in this 50-minute episode we see just about 2 minutes of the Pating. I'll say this again, something like this should never be played up worse than a Dalek. At most it should be played up as nothing more than vermin to deal with. They're not even brave enough to kill it off at the end. The Doctor discovers it just wants to eat energy. The Doctor makes it eat a bomb that explodes off inside it and makes it full. It drifts off back into space to cause trouble to another ship it'll eventually bump into. Good way to solve a problem, Doctor. Let someone else deal with it. Basically, the Pating... Basically, the Pating is invincible. It could defeat Goku, if it wanted to. But it can be stunned for a short period of time. There is one moment where everyone needs to keep the engine safe from the dreaded Pating. The Doctor wastes time by going in a stupid educational speech about antimatter energy. You can tell this moment was just shoehorned in for the sake of education. The BBC likes to do that. The BBC loves shoehorning in education in their TV shows.
You're working at the very forefront of British robotics. Where do we stand on a global scale?
So robotics involves technology in various disciplines. There's hardware, software, control. We are very good at machine learning, the control side of things. And I think
hurry up, I just want to watch the robots fight. Anyway, she lets Yaz and Ronan use stun guns. Oh, wait a minute.
Guns, never use them.
Unless they're stun guns, which... I guess it's okay. Unless they're real guns which stun robots, then they're not okay. Or unless they're gun-like weapons that fire projectiles, which puts people back in time, fired at racists, then it's okay. Unless you use real guns against giant spiders, then it's not okay. Okay, here's what's been established with the Doctor's morality on guns so far. Laser rifles which kill people but stuns robots. Bad. A device which, when fired at something, will send it through time. Bad. Except when it's used on racists, then it's okay. Present day pistols used on giant insects that are capable of causing huge amounts of damage and killing people. That's bad. Guns used on small aliens that are capable of destroying an entire ship with many people in it. That's okay. The Doctor's stance on guns has and should not be this complicated to get. Why on earth has the series messed this up so badly? You think the Doctor was protesting when Torchwood went to complete bullet hell? You think he'd stop what he's doing just to shout out how wrong they were for using guns against a threat? Also, what about other weapons? Why doesn't she have anything against using that DNA scrambler, the one she used against the Stenza? Or the bomb she used to feed the Pating? Sure, you never used the bomb to kill it, but if you had to use a gun to feed it, would you use that? You said never use a gun except for when you need to stun a threat. Basically, I'm asking, where do you draw the line here? What makes guns especially worse than any other weapons? Why is using a gun to end an insect's life when it's about to die anyway bad? Why is it okay to use a DNA scrambler against an alien threat, causing it immense pain, when kicking it off a crane is for some reason reprehensible?
I am important!
You had no right to do that.
Why is stunning a Pating with a gun-like weapon better than using a gun to stun robots trying to kill you? Why call a gun-like weapon that sends people back in time horrible, except when you use it on racists? The writing has completely shot itself in the foot here. They had the potential to make a mature discussion regarding the necessity of guns. Instead, all it's done is made you question what it's trying to convey in the matter, no matter what happens now. If there's a gun involved in Doctor Who, unless they establish it once and for all, it's not going to make any sense because it's contradicted itself. Now, most people would say that a discussion like this shouldn't even be present in a family show like Doctor Who. And I agree. Don't blame me though, it was the show that decided to make the statements it made on guns in the 2 out of the 5 episodes so far. It clearly wants to add its own take on what it thinks on firearms. It just does a very pathetic job at justifying it. Man, it is so difficult talking about this episode. It is just constant talking, exposition and information. I counted 1 moment to breathe, and that's when Ryan talks about his father with Yaz. Other than that, it is just constant moving around, running back and forth, techno-babble, screaming explosions, zap zap zap. It's exhausting, and I can't properly get my mind around it. Fun fact, did you know that this was the first thing I've ever watched on TV that physically hurt me? I'm not joking. There was one point in the episode where my eyes just hurt from how constantly it was cutting from one thing to another. And mind you, this is coming from someone whose eyes were fine when he saw Transformers 5.
Are there comms in the life pod? It's using the life pod as a way into the ship. You know these territories, what can it be? Whoa, nothing can really move.
Oh my goodness, stop cutting. This is hurting my eyes. Why can't they just have longer shots in this scene? Everything is so zoomed in and reserved. Is the episode that boring that it has to cut every half a second to keep people's attention? Why can't you just spend at least 2 seconds on one shot? In fact, the whole episode runs at a light speed pace. You know, 1 minute Astos blows up, another minute they learned what killed him, another minute they're having an uncomfortable and out of place conversation with a pregnant guy, another minute the doctor gives a pep talk to a nurse before getting all techno-babbly again, the next minute they're having a meeting on how to deal with the alien on the ship, the next minute the doctor gives an educational speech about antimatter, the next minute Yaz uses a gun to stun the alien, the next minute Durkis says he can set up a rig for his sister to use, the next minute the doctor has a pep talk with E, the next minute she's on the rig, the next minute she dies, the next minute Durkis is on the rig, which makes you question why he couldn't have just done this in the first place, the next minute the doctor takes care of the alien threat, and while all this is happening, that pointless guy's in labour, screaming and crying out in the most uncomfortable and out of place scene in Doctor Who I've seen in a while. Do you not think that this is a bit too much for 20 minutes of a Doctor Who episode? And once again, there is no proper conclusion. The episode ends with a prayer. Well, why? I don't get it. Why doesn't it end with the Doctor finding her TARDIS? Wait, hang on. Did the Doctor find her TARDIS? How did she? If she did get back to it, because I really don't know.
They're booking your teleport to Cephalon as soon as you've spoken to the investigators. Thank you, Mably.
Oh, they explained everything in a second in an episode which people are talking nonsense 90% of the time. If you missed it, you missed it. It's all tell don't show here. There is so much information thrown out at every minute, you can't keep up. You're bound to miss 1 or 2 large pieces of information. It happened with me in the teleporter bit, so... and probably lots of other pieces of information too. It would help if they all just shut up for a minute so the episode could, you know, show us something. It could easily improve the episode as well. I'll give you an example. The spaceship they're in comes up against an asteroid field. You never actually see that happen. You see the characters and interior shake all over the place, but you never actually see the spaceship in space going through the asteroid field. Just a quick establishing shot would do a lot to the episode to give you a greater sense of place. It's similar to how you never actually see the planet in space in the second episode. If you want to sell us on this location, you gotta show us more. It's something I've come to notice with this series. With the exception of a couple episodes, there is no sense of place, especially in this episode. Apart from the first minute, there's nothing but bland corridors with the same boring colour. It may help if they decorated it up a bit, maybe zoomed the camera out, stopped cutting to every new shot every 2 seconds, or even give me something interesting to look at. The Doctor has been to hospitals before, and they have been immensely more interesting than this one. It has been able to pull this off before. Look, again, this episode wasn't the worst, but when you factor in how dull it was, how lame the alien is, how boring everyone's character is, and how pointless some are, it just makes for a miserable time. It was so dull. I hate dull. In fact, it was so dull and boring. Second time viewing this, I dozed off. I literally brought my attention elsewhere because I was so bored watching this episode. There is no cool alien to look at, there is no interesting characters to root for, there is constant talking making it difficult to keep up with, there is unnecessary padding which could be used to do anything else. There's even more questions with the Doctor's stance on guns when she is okay with Yaz using one against the alien. The location is absolutely uninspired and there is no creativity to this episode whatsoever. It really says something. When I would prefer to watch Arachnids in the UK over this one. At least that one had a few entertaining characters and moments to it. This one just has characters screaming and running back and forth in a flaccid location. No thanks. What was that? Was that? I hear a bingo. We have quite a lot of characters here. We got Brett Goldstein as a minor role, and we got Lois Chimimba, Suzanne Packer, and Ben Bailey Smith as major roles. Stick 'em on now. Wowee, it's getting full now. Just a couple more and we're bound to have a bingo. Alright, thanks for watching. No more of these for a while, if that's okay. Christmas is coming up, and it's a busy time, not to mention Smash Bros. Ultimate came out, so I've been spending quite a lot of time on that. I will finish reviewing this series soon, so stay tuned, good day, and take care.